Welcome to Book Banter with me, your host, Dianne Burckhardt. I hope you will join me every Wednesday as we explore all things to do with, well, books. Let's get on with our show today. Hello, my happy people. Welcome to Book Banter with me, your host, Dianne Burckhardt. We have got such an incredible guest for you today. She was so delightful to talk to. Her name is Benecia Ponder, and she is not only a best-selling author herself, but she has coached others to become best-selling authors as well. Do you have a book that you've always wanted to write, but you have no clue how to even begin? Benecia Ponder can help you with that. Now be sure to stick around to the end of the interview today, and I'm going to tell you about all of the incredible guests who we have on the lineup coming up in the next few weeks. But for now, I don't want to wait. I want you to hear all of the wonderful things that this woman has to say. So without further ado, please welcome Benecia Ponder to Book Banter with Dianne Burckhardt. Why don't you go ahead and give us a brief introduction of who you are and what you do?
Yes, absolutely. So I am Benecia Ponder. I am the story coach and book publishing strategist for inspirational authors. And inspirational authors are passionate, faith-fueled people who have a story on their hearts to share. I just help them to write, to publish, to leverage those stories so that they can illuminate the world with messages of hope, healing, and transformation. So that's me.
That's an incredible mission to have in life.
Yes.
But now, this is not what you started doing for a career. You actually started out in law, and you also have a business degree.
Oh, yes.
So what was it that inspired you to make such a drastic change for your career path?
Well, it's one of those things where you start out doing something because everyone else expects a certain thing from you. And I started out not really knowing exactly what I wanted to do. And so anything was good. Mm-hmm. I went to undergraduate and studied business. I went to law school. And I tell people I went to law school because I did not know what I wanted to do once I got out of college. My sister was in law school. My dad said, well, as long as you're in school, I will support you. I'll pay your bills, all that kind of stuff. So I said, well, if she could do law school, so can I. I did good in law school. I passed the bar. And after law school, I can remember the moment when I was being sworn in as an attorney. The judge was having us swear in. All I remember is having my hand raised, repeating words. But that feeling of this is not what I'm supposed to be doing was right there. So I entered the working world with just no direction, no focus. So all I knew was I wanted to be successful. I wanted to help people. And as I traveled through that career, that journey, I became more and more disconnected, feeling more and more disappointed. And I remember going to an event. It was a women's empowerment event. And I've been praying about, okay, what am I really supposed to be doing? This is not it. I'm good at it, but this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. And there was this guy there doing a motivational speech, and he's like, it's not impossible because you're possible and all this kind of stuff. And mm-hmm. I left that event with this whole kind of idea of, okay, it's possible. I'm possible. What am I possible to do? And it just led me on a whole path of exploration. I knew I wanted to help people to prosper. I wanted to help people to fulfill their purpose. So I left the legal career, the business career, and I started to coach, and I started writing books of my own and doing all these things to help people to fulfill their purpose, to understand that they could use their purpose to actually make money, all those things. And one day, one of my clients asked me, hey, Benecia, I see you've written some books. Can you write my book for me? And I was like, maybe I can write your book. So this was a 3-month process, and this launched my ghostwriting endeavors. But I tell people I will never write a book in 3 months ever again. Actually, I wrote the book in about 30 days because she
Oh,
came
wow.
to me. It was right. It was crazy. I look back and I'm like, what was going on with me? But it was right at Memorial Day. I remember that was the end of May. She called me and we were talking about her business, and she wanted to write a book about her experiences of leaving from poverty and becoming a multi-million dollar business owner, all those kind of things. So I said, okay, we could do it. And by the 4th of July, so from the end of May to the beginning of July, we had her book written and published. She was doing a book launch the 4th of July weekend. And in that whole process, I learned that I love helping people tell their stories. I love helping people get their messages out. And she did something that people aren't supposed to do with ghostwriters. She told everybody, she's like, oh, this is my ghostwriter. This is who wrote my book. I was like, well, shh, we have that confidentiality clause in our agreement for a reason. But she told everybody. And from there, people started asking me to write their books. And it just went down that path. Now I do ghostwrite some, but now I'm more of a coach and a guide helping people to write their own stories. So that was a long journey, but it got me to where I am today. And I'm excited about that.
One of the things that I think that you have on your website that I think is so helpful, that you actually talk about your own crippling anxiety and stress when you went to write your first book. And people don't talk about that very much. And I think that it's important, that all of these conversations are starting to happen whenever you see somebody who is successful, that it was not easy for them, that they struggled to make it happen, but they didn't let that stop them. They went on to work through that and find their success.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just recently published a new book. It's a journal for people, helping them to turn on their power, to share their stories with the world. And I had that same feeling of writing my 9th book that I did with my first book. And I tell people all the time, it is a process. When you're out there sharing your stories, you're sharing these messages with the world, whether they are nonfiction or fiction or whatever they are, you are taking part of you and exposing it to the world. And every time it is a feeling of excitement, but there's also some nervousness there that goes along with it. That feeling never goes away, especially if you're passionate about what you're doing. That feeling doesn't go away. And so I tell people all the time, don't just look at the polished presentation of the book in your hands. Remember that the person who wrote that book had a journey as well. And you don't have to be intimidated by that, but you can be comforted by it, to know that if they could get over that part of starting and just being vulnerable enough to share their message, then so can you. And so I am never shy about telling people, hey, the writing process is tough sometimes. The writing process can sometimes make you just cry and sit there like, oh my gosh, what is this happening to me? But it's also one of the most rewarding things that you can do. So yeah, I share my story. I share the behind the scenes because I want people to know that they are not alone in what they're feeling during that journey.
I think that's absolutely amazing. Many, many people need to hear that message, because so many people let that anxiety stop them from taking those chances and for putting themselves out there, because you are putting yourself out there for people to judge you and to ridicule what you're doing. And there are a lot of people who do that just because it's fun for them to do that. They will find something to pick on about your work, no matter how good it is. There are people who just enjoy making criticisms. And so every time you put yourself out there, you have to expect that to come back from somewhere, but you have to not let that stop you. You just have to accept that's part of the process and focus on all of the good and the things that you're accomplishing. And I think that you really are helping people bring that to mind when they're considering writing a book.
Yes.
Now, do you do everything through self-publishing, or have you worked with a publishing house?
All of the clients I've worked with have gone the self-publishing route. I focus primarily on self-publishing because a lot of the people that come to me have been just intimidated by the whole process, and self-publishing makes it easier for them not to get caught up in long, drawn-out processes, and have more of control over the message they're sharing. So, yes, all of the clients I've worked with have gone the self-publishing route.
See, and I haven't even personally tried going to a publishing house for anything. And part of that is I am a huge control freak. And I like doing
Yes.
self-publishing because I can control every aspect of what I'm doing. And I don't have to answer to anybody. I don't have to meet their expectations for what my message is. I can just focus on my
hmm
own.
Yes, yes. And that is so important. I just wrote a blog post the other day about representation and why that matters so much when we're telling stories, because people need to see themselves. And I think a lot of times when you go that traditional route, if the story does not fit within a specific mold or framework, then they're likely to reject it. But we need to see all kinds of stories. We need to see all kinds of circumstances and situations, people and abilities, disabilities, all these
hmm
different things we need to see. And I do believe that self-publishing has opened the door to so many opportunities for people to share their experiences and their stories in a way that I don't think they would have been able to if traditional publishing was the only option.
Oh, definitely. I mean, you can see that just whenever you go walk by a bestsellers rack. There
hmm
is a certain, I can't even think of what the right word would be, format, I guess, or perception of what a good story should entail. And it tends to not be that diverse.
Right.
And I think with the way that the world is moving today, we need to start giving more representation to how the world actually is. And for the people who are actually in society, there needs to be a full
Yeah.
spectrum that includes all kinds of people and cultures and languages and belief systems and physical abilities. And it's starting to look like there might be a little bit more of a revolution for that in self-publishing.
Yes, yes. And I have these conversations with colleagues and friends often because one of the things that bothers me the most is when I see others trying to censor or to dim the lights of people that just really have so much rich lived experience. Like in the US, in certain states, there's so much censorship going on about you can't say this, or if this thing offends you, then we have a right to not let you say that, or we don't like the way you look or the way that you
hmm
talk. And so you can't say those things. And the work that I do is really about helping people to share that which is inside of them and be able to illuminate. I mean, when we live in a world where it's so dark and people are spewing so many messages of hate, it's so important that we are able to just share light and love. And we do that by showing others a piece of us. We do that by showing others that, yes, we are different, but we are so similar.
Yeah.
Like, yes, we have different kinds of experiences, but at the end of the day, we're all human. And
Yeah.
I think by showing more diverse stories, showing more representation, we are able to just ease some of that hatred and that division in the world and create more of what we really want to see, which is love and light and beauty and all those good things.
Well, and I think a lot of fear is born out of the fact that people don't know about other people and beliefs
Yeah.
and races and everything. They're only going by
hmm
what they've been told or what they've heard, and they have no experience. And the more stories that come out that give people insights into each other, I think it will help bring people together.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I heard one of the most heartbreaking stories a few days ago from someone who is experiencing some things that she never thought she'd experienced before. And she said, I just never knew the world was like this because in the place where she grew up in the United States, it was a place where systematically through the schools and through this different community that she grew up in, she was taught a certain paradigm. She wasn't exposed to other views or other experiences. There was just one experience that she was exposed to. Now, in her, I say middle ages, but but later in life, she is now experiencing something that challenges that whole teaching that she had for all of her life. And she's seeing, hey, this is not really what the world looks like. And it's heartbreaking to me because so often we don't allow people to see other experiences. And so limiting beliefs and viewpoints and stereotypes and all of these things are birthed out of that because we don't expose others to diverse opportunities, diverse experiences, viewpoints, beliefs, religions. I am of the belief that what you believe can't change what I believe, but I'm not going to diminish what you believe. I want to know so I can know you better, right? And I approach life that way. And I definitely believe that when we can embrace and accept the stories and the people that are telling those stories, right?
Yeah.
We can embrace it. Our lives are just so much richer. And I could probably talk about this forever because it's just I'm so passionate about it. And what really frustrates me the most is that so many people are halted in telling their story because they think they have to measure up to a certain expectation, or it has to look a certain way. It has to look like everyone else's. But that's the beauty of art, the beauty of literature, the beauty of expression is that we get to see different viewpoints. We get to see different things, and that's what makes it beautiful. Not that it is in this mold, but that it is true, authentic expression. That is what really matters.
Yeah. We were actually just talking about that with the interview that I did last night, that a teacher of his had said that you should take something that is unique about you and put it in your story, because that will bring that uniqueness and that message that other people may never have heard before to your work and make it stand out among everything else and help bring that information to people that may never have even heard anything like that before, because that's not their experience, it's yours. And I thought that was such great advice from him, that is something that I really want to strive to make sure is in every piece of my work from now on. I think I've done that so far, but it hasn't been in the forefront of my mind to do that. And now it is.
That's awesome. I love it.
What is your actual ultimate goal with your coaching business?
Ooh. My ultimate goal is that I have not only helped others, but I've also been an example. And you talked about putting a piece of yourself into everything that you do. And my goal is that I am the light I want to see, and that I am encouraging others to share their lights with the world. I ultimately want to create a ripple effect of people letting their light shine. That is my goal in everything that I do, that I can inspire and empower and educate and guide people to flipping on that switch, to turning on their own power, so that as they turn their lights, then other people see their lights and turn their lights on. And it's just a domino effect. So my goal is not in terms of numbers of books or numbers of clients or things of that nature, but it's really illuminating the world one story at a time.
That is a fantastic goal to have. Just the thought of, if that takes hold, that could have just such wonderful, peaceful results in the world.
Yes.
Now, I noticed on your website that you offer a free consultation for your coaching services. What can people expect to have in that free consultation with you?
Well, what you can expect to have is a great conversation, and not only to be encouraged about your message, but also challenged. During that consultation, we talk about what you want to share with the world, and we really get clear about what that is, what your vision is, and you leave that call with some very clear next steps. Whether you decide to work with me as your coach or not, you are going to walk away with some clear next steps about how you can really use your message in the world. So when you come to the consultation, I ask that you bring your goals, your stories, and really be open and ready to be challenged to move forward. In no way do I want you to leave that consultation with anything but complete clarity on your next step to moving forward with your book.
Now, if somebody does decide to hire you as a coach, do you have like a certain set pattern, or do you just build a script, I guess you would say, for each individual client, depending on what their goals are?
I start with the Illumination Blueprint, and that's the system that I've developed to guide people through writing and publishing their books. So that is the framework we start with. Within each of those elements of the framework, it's a customized approach. So if someone is coming to me and they have an idea or they have already started writing, then we focus on making sure that they have mastered their message. They're clear and they're confident about what they're sharing. They understand the vision and the purpose even before we start the writing process, right? Even before we start the outlining, it's very important that they understand the vision of what they're doing. And so, like I said, within the framework, the approach is individualized for each particular client.
I know there's this whole discussion all the time between pantsers and plotters. Do you ever find that it's really hard to work with somebody who is a pantser?
No, because to some extent I am. However, what I am able to do is, like I said, let's set up that framework. Let's map out the overall vision. I find that even with pantsers, that when you have an overall vision, it's really easy to bring them back or to keep them on track. It's like having a boundary. So you can run free in that boundary. You know, you can pick and choose what you want to write on a certain day, but there's a boundary. There's a container for your spontaneous writing and all of that. You still have a container. So I enjoy working with pantsers. And when we say pantsers, it's those people who not necessarily want to have a plan, but they write what they feel in the moment and those kind of things. But I enjoy that because it does keep me on my toes, and it does make sure that I'm focused, because my job as their coach is to make sure that they are getting the results they want. They're publishing a book they're proud of. And so I get to be that reminder to say, hey, this isn't on your message. Maybe that's for your next book, kind of thing. So it's a fun process.
So you're almost like the little angel on the shoulder going, stick to the plan.
Yeah. I asked the question, I'm like, well, how does this fit with your overall vision for the book? And if they can't answer that, because I'm of the firm opinion, one theme, one book. You know, if you have multiple themes, you have multiple books.
Yeah.
Because I've seen so many books that are so jumbled, and by the time you finish, you're like, well, what did I learn here? So it's so important that I keep them on track. And I really just bring it back to, hey, does this fall under the theme? Does this fall under the vision that you have for this book? And they get to answer the question themselves. They get to see, oh, okay, well, maybe not. Okay, we'll put this idea to the side for right now, and we'll get back on track. And so it's definitely a process where we have to be engaged and be willing to examine what's being written.
So how many books do you think you have helped get published so far?
So far, I did this number the other week because I was going through, but it's been 117 so far.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
And that's in various stages. Yeah, so not all of them are books that I've been a ghostwriter for. I've been a ghostwriter for about 21 projects. And I've also worked as editing for some, publishing, consulting for some. And so that includes all of the authors I've worked with.
Do you just work with nonfiction, or have you worked with fiction as well?
I have worked with some fiction, but it's not my strong suit. I generally work with people either telling their stories through memoirs or writing personal development, spiritual development, business development, self-help type of books. But I will say that one of my most rewarding and I say one of the most fun books that I've worked on in a while was a fiction book, and it was all about pirates and time travel and oil rigs. And all of this kind of stuff. So it was really cool.
That
I
sounds
do
interesting.
enjoy helping people, right? It was cool. So I do enjoy helping people to share their stories. And I actually worked with a young lady. She's 15, and she was not my youngest client, because my youngest client was 6 years old. I helped
Wow.
him publish a series of children's books. Yes, super excited about that. But she wrote a beautiful young adult love story, coming of age type story, and that was a beautiful project. So I have worked with fiction, with children's books, but the majority of the books that I do work on are nonfiction books.
So, what was the first book that you wrote?
The first book that I wrote was called Prepare to Receive More, and it was a coaching empowerment book. It talked about my story of just transitioning from having a brain tumor that damaged my optic nerves to moving into finishing law school. And the key question in that book is, are you ready for more? Because a lot of times when I was coaching in the early days, my clients would say, I'm ready for more. I go to a speaking event and they say, I want more money. I want more clients. I want this. I want more of this. And I would always say, are you ready for more? And that book really is a coaching book that guides them through the process of actually being ready to have the more that you're asking for. That was the first book that I wrote.
Wow, we actually have a lot in common.
Okay. Wow.
I can kind of
Yeah.
understand some of the struggle that you've gone through.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. It's something that I talk about that story a lot because it's something that affects me still to this day, every moment of every day. But I think that my biggest message for everyone, and that's why I say representation, and I say that your story matters, because when people see you doing things that they would normally think that someone who's been through what you've been through shouldn't be able to do, like someone who's had 6 brain surgeries should not be able to write so beautifully, right? Thinking of my first ghostwriting client, someone who has had such a hard life and grew up in such dire circumstances should not now own 3 multi-million-dollar businesses, right? But we look at those things and we say, oh, they accomplished those things because they're perfect in a sense. But that's not the case.
Yeah.
In many cases, the people that we see who are accomplishing so many great things have a backstory. They have something that they've gone through. And when we talk about those things, we share those things, even in passing, right? Even on an interview, when we just mention it as a footnote, it says, well, I'm dealing with this, and I can't use it as an excuse anymore. I can't use my circumstances or my conditions as an excuse anymore. And it empowers other people to say, hey, I can do that too. That's all a part of what I love to do, is to let people know and to challenge those people who are reading the stories to see themselves and to see the possibility that life has to offer them as well. I remember when I first experienced the pseudo brain tumor and all of that kind of things. And I can remember feeling like it damaged my optic nerves. And so I can remember feeling, just having this whole big pity party. And I can remember feeling so alone in that, because everybody else in my family was quote unquote normal. Everybody else was doing great things. It was really through books. I read some books by Helen Keller, and I was like, oh, wow, she was blind, she was deaf, but she was an author of multiple books, and she did so many amazing things. She was internationally known even before mass communications, right? She was all over the place. And then I read this book by Nick Vujicic, Life Beyond Limits. I hope I'm saying that right. But he was born with no arms and no legs. Yet he's traveling all over the world, empowering people, encouraging people, doing some things. And I was like, I saw the possibility for myself because I read their stories. I saw that, man, I felt empowered when everything else around me seemed like I was the odd man out, like something was wrong with me. I was like, oh, these people, and it's so many other stories that I read that gave me the strength to say, you know what, you don't have to stay where you are. And that is what I love about reading and now being able to help other people to write their stories. I tell my clients all the time, you just don't know the people that you are empowering, even if it's just one, because there was, oh gosh, I hope I don't get this wrong, the way that they said it wrong, but someone once told me that you can see the number of seeds in an apple, but you don't know how many apples are in each seed.
Yeah.
The gist of it was that you just never know. You plant the seeds and you just never know. You could have a whole orchid of a fruit being produced because you planted that one seed. And it's just so amazing that I get to help people plant those seeds. I get to help people to write their stories in a way that they are inspiring others. And the person they inspire could inspire millions. The possibilities are just so amazing for me.
And I love that imagery. That is perfect. This is the point in the show that I like to do 5 quick questions, and they never end up being quick. So, I may have to start changing this segment's name to 5 questionable questions because we have no idea how much time it'll take.
Okay.
So, question number 1. What was the first book you helped your author get to a bestseller list?
It was actually the first book that I ghostwrote, #1 bestseller in multiple categories. So the very first book that I was a ghostwriter for became an Amazon bestseller.
Wow, that's kind of one of those things. How do you top that?
Yes. Yes. You know how they say that the first time you do something, you have beginner's luck, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, the universe is telling you, okay, you're going down the right direction, give you a pat on the back. So I felt like that's what it was. Looking back now, I can see God was leading me in the direction of where I'm supposed to go. And he didn't want me to have a bad first experience because I probably would have turned back. But yeah, that first experience was amazing. I look back on all of the things that we did. It was crazy. Literally crazy.
That is amazing. Okay, question number 2. What is your favorite genre to read when you're just reading for entertainment?
Ooh, I love cozy mysteries.
Oh, yes.
I love, with a hint of romance in there. I just love them. I love cozy romances too. It's like those simple stories that are light and fluffy, and that's what I love to read. Yes.
Yeah, I'm the same. Whenever I just want something entertaining to get my mind off everything else, I always go for cozy mysteries.
Yes.
Question number 3. What is your most memorable encounter at a book signing or a meet and greet event?
I would have to say it was actually at school where we went to read the book. I mentioned that I helped a 6-year-old to become a published author. And that 6-year-old is actually my nephew. After his mother passed, they had been working on a project for him to write some books. So I helped him to complete that project. And we went to his school for him to read the book to his classmates.
Oh.
And it was so amazing to see him standing there. Well, we actually read the book to the class. He didn't read the book, but all the questions that the children asked, to see the pictures, to be able to say, well, who is that? Story, and the pride that he had in just sharing with his classmates. And he's like, sir, I'm a published author.
Aww.
So that was the best so far that I've had, because it was a combination of seeing him accomplish something and finish something that his mom had started with him, and just allow him to express himself. He wrote the stories. I polished him as an editor and those kind of things. We had him illustrated, but he was expressing himself. And I just love the fact that now he's 7. So at this age, he is already knowing the benefit of sharing and of writing. And he is so amazing with that. So that's what I love. That was the best for me.
I can see why. That is a fantastic memory. I mean, just to be able to watch him being so proud of the work that he's done. That's fantastic.
Yes.
Question number 4. What is your favorite genre to coach other authors in?
I will say memoir slash personal development. And I say that because a lot of times the personal development books that I coach are sharing parts of the author's stories.
Mm-hmm.
But I love being able to help people just get clarity about their stories, to get their stories out, to share parts of themselves. I've actually even published some anthology projects where people are sharing smaller stories. And it just is so amazing to see the impact of ordinary stories, because it's so amazing, so amazing. And that really lights me up, helping people to share their story. So I'd say memoir slash personal development would be that genre.
Question 5. What is it that you do have personally coming up for your career? What's next? Do you have another book coming out?
Well, I just published a journal called Let Your Light Shine. It's a 21-day journal to help people through that process. I put this journal out as a gateway into everything else that I do, because the very first thing that every author, every storyteller needs to do first is to turn on their power. They need to have the confidence to be able to share their story. And so Let Your Light Shine guides them through a series of prompts and exercises to be able to pull that out, to see the genius inside of them, to be able to stand firm and know, hey, I have something powerful to share. And from that place, then they can move into understanding what that story is and how to best share it. So I'm really excited about that project. I am embarking on the summer, Let Your Light Shine. That's the whole messaging for the next couple of months, is about just knowing that you have the power to impact and inspire others with your story. Going forward in my business, it looks a lot like continuing to coach, continuing to help people on a one-on-one basis, but also expanding more into group teachings and courses and things like that, where I can help even more people who might not be able to do a one-on-one, but can benefit from training and teaching and things of that nature. So I am just finding different ways to help and encourage people through the process of telling their story and sharing their messages with the world.
So now, where can people buy your books?
Well, you can go to inspirationalauthors.com. There's a list there of the books. They're all on Amazon, so Benecia Ponder. You'll be able to find my author page, and all of my books are there.
And I'm going to have links in the podcast description and on my website that people can find your website and your book buy links, and can also get onto your website and book a coaching session with you.
Absolutely. I'd love that. I love to speak to you if you have a story that's inside of you, or you have a message that you want to share. You've been thinking about it and you want to use that message to inspire others. I'd love to chat with you and get you started.
Is there anything else that you would like to add that we have not covered today?
Oh my gosh, we've covered so much today. I just want to reiterate that the world needs your story now. That's a stand I take for everything. The world needs your story now. And now, because you are here now, we know that the world is in a situation that many people say, okay, the world needs God more than ever before. The world needs light more than ever before. And I think that every generation has said that. But the difference is that you are here now. You are on this earth right now in this moment for a reason. And I believe that reason is to share your light with the world. People need to see themselves represented in stories. They need to see themselves beyond just a highlight reel, beyond just the facade. They need to see real life experiences. And no one else No one else has had your lived experiences. So the problem that your story can solve, I am encouraging and inviting, if you've gotten this far in this interview, I am encouraging you to share your story. Share your story with power, with confidence, and really let your light shine in this world.
Thank you so much. That is a fantastic message. I love that. I have enjoyed this so much. I hope that next time that you have something that you've got coming up that you would like to promote, that you will give us another call.
Oh, I certainly will. Thank you so much. This has been beautiful.
So there you have it, my happy people. My interview with best-selling author Benecia Ponder. She was just so much fun to talk to. I cannot recommend her enough that if you have been thinking about writing your own book, but you just don't know how to start, go to her website, get the free consultation if nothing else. But I tell you, once you have spoken to her and she has encouraged you in ways that you cannot even imagine, I am positive you're going to be signing with her to get your story out there, and she is going to help you do an amazing job with it. So check her out. Now, in the coming weeks, we have got some more fantastic authors coming up. Honestly, I'm just in awe of the authors that I have had on my show from the very beginning. But now season 2 has just seemed to explode. We've had best-selling authors from romance, from westerns, from horror. We've got people coming up from sci-fi and children's picture book authors. And if you happen to know somebody who is a cookbook author, I am dying to get a cookbook author on here and a comic book author. I am doing my best to make sure that we are exploring all the genres out there, so there will always be something for everyone on this podcast. So be sure to check out all of the people who are coming up. If you haven't been following me very long, you can find all of our interviews from the very first episode in season 1 on bookbanter.buzzsprout.com. You can catch them all. They are available on most of the major streaming services that are out there. So find your favorite one and look us up, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the fabulous authors who are coming up. Starting next Wednesday on June 7th, we have award-winning picture book author and podcaster herself, Dianne Floyd Boehm. On June 14th, we have Angela R. Hughes, who is a historical epic fantasy author, and I've really been enjoying her books. They are so good. Then following Angela on June 21st, we have Donna Edmond, who is not only an incredible photographer, but a fantastic visual storyteller. You really need to see her work. And June 28th, we will have Wendy Jo Cerna, a fiction author whose stories will not only encourage the heart, but expand the mind and empower the spirit. Sounds intriguing. So what are you waiting for, folks? If you haven't already done it, be sure to subscribe to our podcast, because you know what? If you love books like we do, you do not want to miss this podcast. Have a great Wednesday, everyone. Now it's time for you to go forth and be happy.